So what I have here is the 7 flagship cameras in the different categories that 3 brands are fighting for you to buy. DJI, Insta360 and GoPro, all claiming their own brand has the best and most valuable and versatile camera for you. Even though these brands target similar but also different customers, like those into image quality, convenience and audio, they all give somewhat the same experience. You press a button and you capture a video. It's what comes after that might separate some from the others, and also how and where you are able to capture the videos when you first press record. This video is not sponsored by DJI, Insta360 or GoPro, and is a raw comparison between all these cameras to help you make the better buying decision. But I will also include my honest experience and thoughts after using all these cameras for a very long time. For all the paper specs and the differences that don't really matter, you can check out each individual camera through the links down below. Now doing an audio test with all the different cameras here, I'm just gonna repeat the same sentence over and over so the comparison stays equal and fair for all the different brands here. I'm having the cameras about an arm's length away. The Osmo360 records 5K videos at 30 FPS in single lens mode, the X5 4K 30 FPS in single lens mode, and all the other cameras 4K 30 FPS as well. So which one do you think sounds better? Is it DJI, Insta360 or GoPro? Now let's move to a battery life and battery test. I did 3 separate tests here in the studio to see which could record the longest in a 25 degrees Celsius environment with no wind or airflow to cool the cameras down. All cameras were set to auto settings in 4K 30 FPS to make a fair comparison, but both 360 cameras were set to 8K 30 FPS, as I would think this is the most common resolution and frame rate that most people will use. I also saved the longest record from these 3 tests on each camera, and on last place, like always, the GoPro Hero 13. The GoPro is also the camera that recharges slowest at only 8 watts compared to all other cameras which charges at a minimum 20 watts plus quick charge. Second to last, we have the Osmo360, which didn't really overheat, but it ran out of storage and it was 5% battery left. So let's add another 5 minutes to the record time of the Osmo360. Followed by the Osmo360, we have the X5 with 1 hour and 40 minutes of continuous recording before it ran out of battery. The next camera out is the Action 5 Pro at 1 hour, 45 minutes and a couple of seconds in 4K 30 FPS, and to my surprise, the battle of first place was between the Pocket 3, the Ace Pro 2 and the Go Ultra. On third place, we have the Ace Pro 2 with 2 hours and 8 minutes, followed by, to my surprise, the Pocket 3 with 2 hours and 8 minutes and 30 seconds. That's just wow, that is impressive. And this is without the battery handle, only the unit itself. The winner, just like the Go 3S back in the days when that was released and I did my same test, the Go Ultra now takes the crown for the longest video recorded of 2 hours and 23 minutes and 6 seconds. So the only camera overheating in this test was again the GoPro Hero 13 after 53 minutes in 4K 30 FPS. However, I would say that as long as the camera can record for how long you need it to record and you're able to capture what you want to capture, a battery test is more or less useless and irrelevant compared to actual real-life usage, which most likely will include some airflow, which lower the chances of the camera's overheating. Now let's move over to image quality, more precise pixel peeping, which a lot of people seems to be just so obsessed with nowadays. I don't know why, but it is what it is. So for this test, I reset all cameras back to default. I made sure to set the bitrate to high. So this is the straight out of the box image quality that you're gonna get. And of course, it's also possible to do some post-processing later, like color grading and sharpness. Now, starting with a time-lapse here, we have the GoPro followed by the Ace Pro 2, then we have the Go Ultra, and then we have the Action 5, then the Pocket 3, the X5, and last we have the Osmo360. To me, they all look good, but I do prefer the dramatic colors of the GoPro 13. However, the Pocket 3 is the one that has the best true-to-life colors compared to how it actually looks in real life. so we now changed the resolution to the highest resolution of all these cameras, 30 fps, so Osmo 360 8K 30 fps, the Ace Pro 2 8K 30 fps, the X5 8K 30 fps, the GoPro 5.3K 30 fps, and the rest is 4K 30 fps. One cool thing is that I put active track on the Osmo Pocket now, so wherever I move, the camera will follow, and the same thing I can do with the 360 cameras because they have a deep track inside the studio or inside the mobile app. So this is a pretty convenient feature to use when you're out hiking, traveling, or want to keep track of a subject or object. Another thing is also the sun is right behind me, so which of the cameras picks up the most details on my jacket, and which one do you think looks better? Let me know in the comments below. Now moving over to stabilization here between all these cameras, it's easy to see that a 360 camera has unmatched stabilization, and both DJI and Insta360 do an amazing job in keeping the videos perfectly stable. So if you want the best of the best stabilization in a camera, regardless of being 360 or not, a 360 camera is the camera you should get. When it comes to slow motion, we have all cameras set to 4K 120 fps, and the X5 to 4K 120, and the Osmo 360 to 4K 100 in 360 videos. Now in terms of image quality, you wouldn't really go wrong with any of these cameras. They all look good both below and above water, except for the Pocket 3, which is not waterproof or water resistant, as it is a cinematic camera and not an action camera. What really matters to me though is how I can use these cameras and how they make it easier for me to capture family moments, motor rides, vacations, holidays, and so on. And to me, image quality is actually on the bottom of the list. Another question is also the experience you might get and the camera's versatility and flexibility that can help you achieve a great experience. One thing is capturing the video, but how is the process after, and are you happy with what you captured? Is a great experience something you value more than a camera with better picture quality and more flaws, like GoPro? Shorter battery life, unpredictable freezes, overheating, a messy layout, awful navigation experience, and more. Not so convenient. When it comes to the Action 5 and the Ace Pro 2 here, I do think these sit somewhat in the same boat. The Ace Pro 2 taking the upper hand with low light, whilst the Action 5 Pro here focus more on high quality audio paired with the DJI mic system. And for me, this is more or less the hardest decision, deciding between these two cameras, especially when it comes to regular action cameras. The flip screen that we have on the Ace Pro 2 is something that makes everything easier, framing, low angle, vlogging, vertical videos, and so on. Not because it's a better camera, but because it's easier and more convenient to see what I'm shooting, because I can adjust the screen exactly how I want. Low light is also something I've started enjoying more as it's become more accessible, and that's also thanks to the Ace Pro 2. But the Action 5 has D-Log M 10-bit, same with the Osmo 360 and the Pocket 3. I'm not thinking about 10 bits, but like the actual flat color profile, which is superior compared to others, and I think this is the only reason that I'm holding on to my Action 5 Pro at this time. Then we have the Pocket 3 here and the Go Ultra, which is two different cameras. One being a small, powerful 4K camera that can be placed almost anywhere with the magnetic backplate, whilst using the Action Pod as a dedicated remote to stop and start recording, as well as changing settings. And because it has a wireless Action Pod remote, you will always be able to get the perfect angle and the perfect shot. The Pocket 3, however, is the complete opposite, with a 1-inch sensor, autofocus, and long-lasting battery life even without the battery grip. This is something that a lot of people get to replace their more expensive and bulkier setup, like the one I'm using now, the Sony a7S III, with the monitor and microphone and everything stacked up. So the Pocket 3 is definitely a good option to consider. Now, I've also been taking the Pocket 3 around the world to capture amazing travel videos, which I wouldn't be able to capture at such quality with any of these other cameras. So for those of you that are looking for a high-end pocket camera that works great for product showcase videos, for example, or B-rolls or normal A-rolls, this is something I can highly recommend if you can get hold of it. But because it's not waterproof or water resistant, it sets some limits to when and where I can use it. So that's the only con with this, because I'm looking for that camera, that all-brand camera that provides good image quality, easy to use, and something that I can use no matter activity. Now, when it comes to features, let's start with the regular cameras first before we take a look at the 360 cameras here. So we have the basic modes on all these cameras, and some have more features than you actually need. So having a lot of features doesn't necessarily mean that it will make your videos look better, but it can make it easier to capture the videos you want because of the features you have access to. So in some cases, it might make it easier. The Pocket 3 is one of the cameras here which has the least amount of features, but the most important features for vloggers, like barrel roll, tracking, slow motion, and vertical videos, just to mention a few. Basically everything you need to post a video vertically or horizontally. The Action 5 has some pretty interesting features, and some features I didn't know I would use as much as I have. My most used travel feature, or family feature I would say, is actually subject tracking. Even though it crops in the footage a bit and I don't get the full quality, like I mentioned earlier in this video, image quality is far down on my list here, but this feature is awesome, especially if you have kids, family members, or anyone specific you want to keep in the center of the frame. Now, other important features to me is that the Action 5 does also have an improved color accuracy for underwater videos, thanks to the new color temperature sensor, which sits right here. And this produces more accurate underwater videos compared to the older Osmo Action models. Now, the Ace Pro 2 and the Go Ultra shares some of the similar features. Both cameras have features like freeform video, where you capture once and decide later if you want the video to be horizontal or vertical. They both have time shift, star lapse, burst, and interval photos, as well as the option to turn on and off active HDR. But for the Ace Pro 2, being the bigger brother, it can capture videos up to 8K in 30 FPS and 4K 120 FPS, whilst the Ultra is limited to 4K 60 FPS. And the Ace Pro 2 does also have a dedicated dashcam mode. Now, just like the Action 5 Pro, the Ace Pro 2 does also have a dedicated underwater mode, which enhances the overall colors, temperature, and quality of your videos. If one is better than the other is really hard to say, but you wouldn't go wrong with either of these two cameras if you spend most of your time underwater. When it comes to GoPro, we have time-lapse video and photo options, so 3 options only, and within these sections you have the option to change between a time warp, star trail, light painting, and so on. Basically time lapses with the different settings. For videos, it's either follow cam, not quite sure what this is or what they mean about this, but it's slow motion at 240 FPS. We also have normal video and burst slow motion. And moving over to photos, there's burst, night photo, and the photo, including the option to make your own preset, so maybe the GoPro is the one with the least amount of features actually. However, the GoPro have 5.3K videos up to 60 FPS in super view, not the widest, but super view, and this looks absolutely amazing. But limited to 30 FPS, so not 60 if you want the widest field of view. Another feature which seems to separate a lot of people is also the ability to capture videos in 10-bit. So both GoPro and DJI records the videos in 10-bit colors, whilst Insta360 records 8-bits. I've been using all different cameras for more than 15 years now, of course some longer than others, but it has never crossed my mind that I need to have 10 bits, otherwise I can't capture my videos. Some people need 10-bit colors, of course, because of work and whatnot. Some people think they need 10-bit because everyone says it's a must, and some don't really care at all, and I'm that last guy. Even if 10-bit is a nice thing to have, it's not needed to make compelling videos or a good story. All you need is a camera, and a camera you like to use. The real benefit here is D-Log-M, which is an amazing profile to work with. And for me, it wouldn't make a difference at all if this was 8 bits, 10 bit or 12-bit D-Log-M. Even at times when I use the Action 5 Pro with a normal 10-bit color profile, I've seen some of my clips look way too artificial compared to real life. So it's not said that 10-bit makes it better, it's also how the camera is processing the videos you capture. Now, talking about the two 360 cameras here, the Osmo360 and the X5, DJI's first take on a 360 camera. The Osmo has the basic features needed in a 360 camera, and the X5 has a bit more whether you need it or not. So both these cameras have a 360 mode and a single lens mode. The Osmo 360 has 8K up to 50 FPS in 360 video mode, where the X5 has 8K up to 30 FPS. In single lens mode, we have 5K on the Osmo 360 and 4K on the X5. For slow motion, we have 4K up to 100 FPS on the Osmo 360 and 4K up to 120 FPS on the X5. So for this, I would give a point to the Osmo 360. And I think this is what might separate one from the other. If you need higher FPS in 360 video mode, then the Osmo 360 is the one to get. And the same goes for single lens mode. Additional features on the Osmo 360 is time-lapse, photos, vortex aka bullet time, and in single lens mode we find selfie mode. The same features can be found in the X5, like bullet time and me mode, but the X5 does also have a few extra features like star lapse, instaframe, which captures both a regular video and a 360 video file, so one file you can quickly upload to social media from where you stand without having to do a lot of reframing, and one file you can reframe later to give that same video a completely different vibe. There's also a time shift feature, a dedicated dashcam mode, as well as pure video mode for low light, where the Osmo 360 has a super night for low light. In single lens mode, the X5 has a free frame video, the same as the Go Ultra and the Ace Pro 2, and also pure video mode in low light. So if you just want to capture a regular video in low light with your 360 camera without having to reframe a 360 video, you can also do this with the X5. Now, talking about durability with all these cameras, all the regular action cameras, the Ace Pro 2, the GoPro 13, the Action 5, and even the Go Ultra are quite durable and robust cameras. They can take a hit, they all have a replaceable lens cover, which can be replaced for as little as $8, and they're all waterproof down to 10 or 15 meters without a dive case, and the underwater videos look fairly good out of the box. When it comes to the 360 cameras in this test, the Osmo 360 and the X5 has replaceable lenses, which means no matter when or where or how bad your lens gets smashed, you always have the option to replace it on your own within a few minutes. For additional protection, the X5 does also have standard and premium lens guards, which are made out of glass, and also ND filters, which gives more freedom to use manual settings upon adding additional protection. The Osmo 360 does not have replaceable lenses, so if you crack this, you're more or less screwed until you get the camera back from repair, unless you want to buy a new one instantly. The Osmo 360 does also have a basic snap-on lens protection, which is nice, but compared to the X5 where you physically have to screw the lens guard on, the Osmo has a more flimsy system where you need to angle the lens properly before you snap it in place on top. So in terms of durability, it's a higher chance of the Osmo covers falling off versus the threaded covers on the X5. Now, when it comes to mounting these cameras, they all have the ability to use a quick look system. However, the GoPro is the only one that does not include a convenient snap-on system for free, whilst Insta360 and DJI adds at least one convenient mount which you can lock in place and take the camera on and off as many times as you want without touching the screw. It's also good to know that DJI is the only brand which offers a one-way mounting solution. Even though the mounts are backwards compatible, which is nice, you only have the option to mount the camera in one direction. This is quite cumbersome if you want to capture videos one way and then you stop at a red light, for example. You want to change the position, you want to record a video of yourself. You can't just remove the camera, turn it around and put it back in place. You will physically have to unscrew the mount, turn it around and then fasten the screw again, whilst on all the other cameras you can just turn the camera around, which is convenient. So I wouldn't put this as a con, just something that you need to be aware of. Now, the Go Ultra is probably the most versatile camera in this comparison. So if we look at the places you can mount this and how easy it is to use with the action pod as a remote. So despite the Osmo 360 also having a magnetic bottom plate, it's way too bulky and heavy for me to even consider putting this in the same places as I put the Go Ultra, especially when it doesn't have those replaceable lenses. But the Ultra can be placed anywhere basically, and over the time of using this, I've started using different objects as my tripod just to travel a little bit lighter. So if I needed to record a short talking head, whether this is to explain something or whatnot, I can either hold it in my hand, use a selfie stick, or I can just use the magnetic backplate on an object and just to get some distance and then use the action pod as my remote to check the framing. Another convenient thing with the Go Ultra is also how I could get the perfect angle as a motocam without doing multiple takes or connect my camera to my phone just to see the angle. So just by using the action pod, I could get the perfect angle within a few seconds, as well as change between the different shooting modes and frame rates without having to remove the camera, change the settings or mode, and then place it back on my helmet and maybe just, double check one more time to see if the angle is good. Even though the Go Ultra won't give you that GoPro quality, it will definitely give you a great experience because it's so easy to use. Now, when it comes to ease of use and user experience with these cameras, it's pretty straightforward with some of these cameras. So for all the regular action cameras, including the Go Ultra, which all has a compact form factor, the way you use these cameras are quite equal. You change the settings to whatever you want, you press record, and when you press record again, the camera will save the video, which you can later pull out from the SD card because all these cameras have a dedicated SD card slot for a micro SD card, or you can just save the files to your phone by connecting your phone to the app. So it doesn't get any easier than this. But we gotta talk about GoPro once again. Despite having the best image quality, and I say it every single video, the GoPro has the best image quality. I mean, the Ace Pro 2 comes pretty close when it comes to the image that the GoPro provides, but GoPro is still ahead. For me, the quality means nothing if the user experience is bad. It's like buying a new car as a family of 4 and you go with a Ferrari instead of a van. The car quality is probably better on the Ferrari, but the experience is much better with the van, and they both get the job done at the end. Another thing is also, after 15 years of using cameras, I've learned that user experience, durability and versatility is unmatched to quality. Though we have different opinions, which is nice, and not everyone has kids. Some do everything solo, and that Ferrari might be tempting. But all in all, my experience with GoPro has not been good, and I've had almost every single one of them. But if you have a GoPro, you might have a different experience, which I hope you do. It's probably a great camera when it works, but personally, I can't deal with all the issues. Now, if we go back to the Go Ultra for a sec, I mentioned that this camera has a magnetic backplate and all of that. Basically a Go 3 and a Go 3S, just a different version with the better internal components. So for those of you that are familiar with the Go series, the Go Ultra can be used in the exact same way. So we had a family day recently, and one of the pros with having a camera like this, even though it might not be your main camera, if you have small kids, you can use this to get their point of view. So I snapped this Ultra on Philip basically as he drove around, and I think this shot turned out pretty cool. He also ran through a maze, mainly to test the low light capabilities for his dad, because I couldn't be bothered, to be honest. And this also gives you a more authentic look at the low light capabilities. The Pocket 3 is an amazing vlog camera, and the experience is just as good as the quality. However, I do suggest using a manual white balance for every time you use this camera. For my use over the time, I want everything to be fast and efficient, so that's why I mostly go with the auto settings when I do my A-rolls, talking about a different product. Over the time of owning this, the white balance seems to fluctuate so much between warm and cold, especially in the winter. Setting a manual white balance completely removes this issue. For some, this hasn't been an issue at all, and if you haven't had issues, well, I'm really glad for you, but this is just important to know. This is one of the things which could ruin your shots, and it has done a few times for me. So it's not a con, it's just use manual settings and it should be fine. Also, a few updates ago, the Pocket 3 received a 40mm equivalent option, which instantly made this a better camera for me. It's also important to note that this camera can record for a very long time without the battery handle, almost as long as the Go Ultra, over 2 hours. And with the battery handle, the Pocket 3 would easily win a battery test here in the studio. So, you know, I didn't know this with the Pocket 3, so plus 5 points for the Pocket 3. However, for real life use, the performance might and will be different between all these cameras, because you will have the airflow, maybe you don't have airflow, maybe you have like soaring heat over the camera sits in the sun, so it's going to be different for every single user. Moving over to the reason you might have clicked on this video, the Osmo 360 versus the X5. I do have a dedicated, honest comparison on these two cameras already, which I will leave down in the description below. But how does these two cameras compare to others? And let's dive a little bit deeper into the user experience without comparing paper specs, which means nothing to what you actually see and get from these two cameras. After all, it's just specs, and sometimes specs don't reflect back to the experience you have. So one of the things that makes my user experience, my experience with the Osmo 360 better, is D-Log-M. Regardless of being 10-bit, D-Log-M makes it easier to color grade the videos I've captured with multiple DJI devices, so the Mini 4, the Mavic 4 Pro, the Flip, and the Action 5 Pro, and so on. The other benefit is the ecosystem with the Mic Mini, Mic 2, and eventually the Mic 3, which is on the horizon, I guess. With Osmo Audio, I get the absolute best possible audio in a small, lightweight form factor, which is really convenient to use. However, Insta360 do also have their own ecosystem with the Mic Air, which is based off of AI and compatible with the X5, Ace Pro 2, and the Go Ultra, and provides just as good audio at times, but what it lacks is some consistency compared to the mics from DJI. But this is Insta360's first proper take on a wireless microphone, just like DJI's first take on a proper 360 camera. Both look good and sounds great, but they have flaws. When it comes to actual use between these two cameras, I personally find the Osmo360 to be a bit bulky, and I would always need to use a selfie stick when capturing single lens videos. The problem with a short design like this is that I will always end up touching the lens on the back here when I want to shoot some single lens videos without using a selfie stick. And for those of you that says, no, this is not possible, you're lying, because I can't count how many times this has happened. 50% of the times I've tried to use this handheld, I've touched the lens. So to eliminate this problem, I've always used a smaller selfie stick. So, whether it's a con or not, that's, up to you to decide as an end user, but it is annoying. With the X5, for example, which has a longer design, it's not going to be a problem because the lenses sits higher, so I have a more natural grip when I'm shooting in single lens mode compared to the Osmo360, which, is always subject to fingerprints. What also makes the user experience better on the X5, even though I said it many times in this video, is the replaceable lenses. If you ever owned a 360 camera, you know as good as me that this is a game-changing must-have feature and a must-have in all 360 cameras, and should be the standard in any 360 cameras being released after the X5. Because when it happens, and it will happen at some point, I won't have the option to replace my lens at the spot or when I get home with the Osmo360. I would need to send it back, wait for a new camera, or wait for DJI to replace the lenses. According to the latest leaks, the GoPro Max 2, or if it's already been released as of making this video, the Max 2 does also have replaceable lenses or lens guards, leaving DJI as the only brand with an outdated design straight from release. Another issue which is quite annoying for me on the Osmo360 is that this splits the files into 13 minutes clips. So for each time I record longer videos, like on a ride with my motorcycle, I end up with all these files which I have to go through. So if there's something that happened or something I want to edit which is right in between these two splits, it might be tricky to get that to look super smooth with keyframes. The same goes with the Pocket 3, which also splits the files, whilst Insta360 and GoPro cameras record a full duration, which makes it easier and more convenient to edit my videos. Now, let me give you my honest thoughts here. So out of all these cameras, if I could pick one to go on my next trip, whether this is a road trip with my bike overseas to a different country or just to the zoo with the kids, I would say the X5. The X5 is the camera I would get. And if you asked me last year, I would say the X4. 2 years ago, the X3. If the Osmo360 was the only 360 camera, I would say the Osmo360. GoPro Max was the only one, I would say GoPro Max. If GoPro Fusion, whatever that is, was the only one, I would go with the GoPro Fusion. A 360 camera is what I would pick. And the biggest difference versus this and the Osmo360 to me is the replaceable lenses and the fact that Insta360 is more developed in the 360 area with features, editing experience, and accessories like ND filters, which is actually easy to put on and sits more secure than what these snap-on covers do on the Osmo360. Even though the paper specs and most of the videos I capture look better on the Osmo360, in real life use the differences in image quality is minor to me, and some scenes on the Osmo looks better, of course, and some scenes on the X5 looks better. By all means, the Osmo360 is a great camera, it's a fantastic camera, but it falls short on many aspects for my use. Even though DJI has a cheap way of replacing your lenses, you still have to send it back, which causes delays, and it might ruin your 1 week vacation if this happens on the first or second day. You still have to send it back, and you're not going to get it back the same day. So there you have my camera comparison out of all these cameras. You might not agree with my conclusion, which is completely fine. But if you're looking for a new camera, I sure hope that this video could help you make the better buy. I still think that every camera after the X5 that's being released, especially in the 360 genre, I think those should have replaceable lenses. And I think the Osmo 360 is a rushed product. I honestly think it's a rushed product. I think they should have waited at least until early next year, fixed everything, made the replaceable lenses, maybe screw-on protection to the lens covers as well. But that's just my opinion. You might not be bothered with this, but it really bothers me when I'm out hiking, and just to have the option to replace the lenses is huge. But everything, like I said, linked down in the description below. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe and hit that bell, and I will catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.